has been launched for women's writing on politics and economics. It's backed by the new Statesman magazine and the publishers Virago. Now, it coincides with the 20th anniversary of the Bailey's Prize for Women's Literature, formerly known as the Orange Prize. Well, I'm joined now by Helen Lewis, the deputy editor of the new Statesman, and one of the judges for the new award, of course, and down the line, as we call it, by the Conservative MP, and best-selling author Nadine Dorries. And funnily enough, her latest novel is out today. Let's stay with you, Nadine. What do you think then about the overall issue before we discuss the specifics of gender-specific, women-specific book awards?
Well, I think it's fantastic because, you know, women outsell men by 70 to 30. And traditionally, over time, that has never been recognised. It's never been acknowledged. And, you know, we have the Bailey's Prize, which I think is celebrating their 20th anniversary this year, if I'm not wrong. And I think we need more of it. But my only concern with the New Statesman is this, really. And that's that women don't need another layer of prejudice because they experience it every day. And the New Statesman does have a brand, and it is a very left-wing brand. And I just hope that when they judge and they critique and look at the entries for their prizes, that they leave their politics at the front door and judge every woman on her own merit and not what her political beliefs are.
We'll deal with that straight away then, Helen Lewis. So it's not going to have a left-wing tint then, who you choose?
I don't think it will do, because it's about politics and economics, and I think it's about the quality of the analysis. And it's possible to bring a very right-wing analysis to either of those and do it incredibly skillfully. And there's always been a place for that in the New Statesman. We've always seen ourselves as being a kind of quite a pluralistic place for debate. So, yes, there won't be a prejudice against right-wing people, but they have to write as well as left-wing people.
There are some questions being asked. I've been looking on social media about it, and in particular from women, about it being sponsored by Bailey's. Bailey's, you know, using it as a marketing attempt to target the drink specifically at women, a Bailey's for the lady kind of thing.
I think if Baileys want to give money to sponsor a fiction prize, I can't imagine they're doing that out of pure altruism. I don't think the world is awash with companies doing things out of pure altruism. But you have to say, is that worth the trade-off? If they decide that they want to market to women, I think that's a perfectly legitimate thing to do. They're going to stump up the money for it. I don't really see the problem with that. OK. Nadine,
do you feel, though, on this issue of politics and economics, that women just aren't taken seriously? And this, of course, relates directly to your experience in the House of Commons.
No, not at all. I mean, women are, I think, judged with a more opaque filter than men, both on their political opinion, on their position, on politics, whatever that might be. And there is far more, I mean, you just had Jess on a moment ago, there is far more vitriolic attack aimed at women who have an opinion, who are strong and who write. And it doesn't matter whether they write about politics or economics or fiction. You know, I've experienced that myself. You know, even though my book was a bestseller, my first book, it was slated by the male reviewers and favourably reviewed by the women. And I think, you know, that there has to be a recognition of the fact that women have a tough time, both in publishing and in fiction and in all spheres of writing. And the more prizes that we have, women-only prizes, the better. And if the men object, then bring on an all-male prize. That's fine. But, you know, we really have to acknowledge this. Women have had a tough time.
Helen Lewis, I mean, do you find yourself in a lot of agreement there with Nadine?
I know, it's quite shocking to me that we finally an issue that brings me and Nadine together. But I think that there's a point. Some people will say,
that's inevitably... shame, it's shocking, Helen.
that it's that this prize is sexist. You know, where is the men's prize? But the trouble is that a lot of prizes end up being men's prizes by default. This year, the Samuel Johnson Prize, for example, another non-fiction prize, has a long list of 12, and there's only one woman on that. And the reason that the Orange Prize...
The previous two winners were women, I understand.
Yeah, but what happens is when you look at these things in the round, you discover that men far dominate. And as Nadine said, actually, most fiction is written by women, most fiction is bought by women. But yet, for some reason, we think that the best fiction must be by and about men.
But, I mean, let's mention other prizes. Of course, the granddaddy, the Man Booker, half of the last 10 winners have been women. OK, Hilary Mantel twice, but we've got Eleanor Cotton as well, Anne Enright and Kieran Desai. And, you know, this is for everyone.
But one of the things I think is really interesting to look at is the number of women there who don't have children. And Nadine's an interesting example of that. She got her first book published after her children were quite a lot older. And actually one of the big things that's a problem for women is they can't go to literary festivals to promote their book. They can't come on TV to promote their book because they've got caring responsibilities that men don't have. And I think it's interesting to question, when you look at the number of women who are winning prizes, actually how many of them do have those caring responsibilities.
Yeah, interesting point. Do you care to comment on it, Nadine?
Well, it's absolutely true. Also, the other thing, of course, Helen, is that you don't have time to write your books when you're a mother and you have caring responsibilities. And that is an issue. You know, I write my books very early in the morning, once my children have left home. And I think a lot of women are in the same position as I am. They don't have the time or the mental space, actually, to do what they've always wanted to do. And many women don't actually have the confidence. It takes the experience of a lifetime of mothering, of achieving, both in your career and in parenting, to give you the confidence to be able to write. Because I speak to so many women now who contact me who want to write but don't feel that they can put their book out there yet, and that's a great shame. And I hope actually the more prizes we have and the more acknowledgement of women in publishing, that will change.
And Helen Lewis, I mean, is it what the books are about, or is it just the fact that they're written by women? I mean, I suppose in the case of this particular prize, it's not about women writing for women, is it?
No, although there is a problem, I think, there is a kind of great men of history theory, that a book about, a general, for example, is deemed to have a kind of status that maybe about a female pioneer wouldn't. And I think if you look at something like last year's Oscar-nominated films for the Best Picture, they were all actually about men's lives. And I think there's this kind of idea that if you write a book about a man's life, that's quite a big political statement. If you write a book about a woman's life, it's sort of, it's a memoir or a biography. It's somehow diminished by being associated with being feminine.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it. Nadine, I want to read you a quotation from... it's a blog I read about someone who'd just got selected to stand as a Member of Parliament. They subsequently got in, and they went through a shortlist that had 12 men on it and 5 women, and won through. And the blog says this: the crunch question I want to ask myself is this: if one of my 3 daughters became an MP as a result of being selected by an all-woman shortlist, how proud would I feel? I know the answer. I would want them to compete on merit because they are worthy of that. Now, who said that?
That was me. Yes. And actually that still holds true. I think when you're applying to the electorate to be elected, you're not only being elected by women, you're being elected by, well, who make up 52% of the population, you're being elected by everybody. And therefore the process to put you in the position of standing before that electorate should be equitable, and you should be selected by an equal number of men as you are women. But I don't think you can conflate standing for public office with the fact that 70% of women are the successful writers against 30% of men. That is a different dynamic and statistic. But can I just make this point, Gemma, on what we've just, on the previous discussion? You know, I'd just like to say to Helen that literary prizes very rarely go where the readers are. And whereas they're very valuable and very important, and I fully support and applaud them, there seems to be this chasm of what readers buy and what an almost elitist group of judges and those who critique that the work for prizes deem as worthy of prizes. And I think that's a chasm that has to be crossed so that the public can be involved and interested in these literary prizes as much as the publishing world is.
OK.